Welcome to the Fire Time Podcast, where it's never hot enough, slow is fast, and the way to win is to make it so stupidly easy to buy from you that there's no excuse not to. I'm your host, Tim Reed. And once again, I'm so excited to be here today. Welcome to the Fire Time Podcast. Well, hey, we are continuing with our series of Fire Time Magazine Rapid Reaction episodes as we march towards the upcoming season of the podcast, which is going to start the Tuesday after Labor Day. But throughout the rest of the summer, in these episodes, we will listen together to an audio article from the Fire Time Magazine, and then as soon as it's over, I hit record and give you my rapid reaction to it. Now, today's article that we're going to listen to is written by Allen Newby, and it came out in the February 2026 edition of the Fire Time Magazine, as well as this year's Fire Time Journal. And the article is called Wisdom from the Warehouse. Now, this is a piece that when it came out, it truly blew me away. I thought it was one of the highlights of the Fire Time Journal this year. And I remember reading it and listening to it and just feeling like, man, yeah, it's about the warehouse, but there is just so much in general for our businesses that we can take away from this. And so I'm super happy to go back and listen to it again. Now, it's been probably 3 months, 4 months since I have read it or listened to it. So it's going to be fresh for me as well, but really excited for you to hear this. I think that there is a lot to take away. So we'll listen to this audio article together, and then as soon as it's over, I'm going to hit record and give you my rapid reaction.
Wisdom from the Warehouse by Allen Newby. A lifetime of lessons. I first started working at the AES warehouse when I was a teenager. At the time, all I thought about was how hot and dusty it would be, how many orders needed to get pulled before the next truck showed up, and how I was going to make it through another afternoon of unloading loose charcoal bags in 90-degree heat. I can honestly say I didn't appreciate the work as much as it deserved, but it was formative nonetheless. It taught me a lot of lessons that I still carry with me, one of which was this: the warehouse is a microcosm of the world. After all, two people can be assigned the same task and go about it in completely different ways, and how they tackle it will tell you a lot about who they are. Recognizing that reality is the first step toward learning how to work with all sorts of people, and that's the key to orchestrating a team. From there, you're in a much better position to come up with creative solutions that produce results quickly. In short, running a warehouse well comes down to working with different people to solve complex problems. That's true whether you manage a distribution center, own a retail hard shop, or run a one-truck operation. With that in mind, 3 key principles have shaped how we work in the AES warehouse, and I believe they hold true across our industry. Organize your space around the task, use visual cues to keep everyone informed, and always treat the people helping you with kindness and respect. Principle 1. Ensure everything has a place. Picture a time when you needed your oil changed. Where did you go? Probably the closest place dedicated to that specific job. If you look around at those types of places, you'll notice some common themes. A few stations designed to accommodate one vehicle at a time, a dedicated space for the tools and materials needed to complete the job, and a place to record the work and print the paperwork. Simply put, these establishments have found a formula. They've arranged the personnel, tools, and materials so that whoever is in the pit has everything needed to do the job efficiently. In other words, they work effectively because everything has a place. If you have a warehouse, then you need a formula too. That is, you need a way to track a lot of information and account for a huge quantity of items spread over a large area. At AES, we do that by organizing everything around the flow of inventory. Pipe comes in one side of the warehouse and goes to an established place before it gets logged in the system. We store it in the aisles near the product it's supposed to be sold with. When an order is pulled, there's a dedicated area for it to be double-checked and prepped before shipping. We also divide our spaces by their intended use. We organize aisles by brand and then by product type. There are also separate spaces for receiving, shipping, and data entry, and there's an established spot for every tool we need to get the job done. From there, we ask one fundamental question when evaluating our operations. How can we make pulling the items on any order as simple and fast as possible? That question shapes every optimization we make. Our pick tickets print bin locations in ascending order so the puller can move in a straight line down an aisle. The wrapping machines sit between where the freight is staged and where it goes to be picked up. Pallets ready for pickup are lined up as close to the dock doors as possible and organized by carrier. Of course, you likely don't have the same jobs we do, but the basic idea translates. If you have a tech in the field, you know what equipment the job requires, and chances are your tech has the truck organized so the first tool needed to diagnose a fireplace is right there at the tailgate, easy to reach. If you own your own shop, consider the natural flow of product in and out. Does it come in one side and staged in a specific area before it goes on the work truck? Do your installers have a dedicated spot to grab tools or materials? Do they carry standard items on work vehicles? Do they have dedicated toolboxes for electrical, gas, or venting components? Whatever your answers, consider this an invitation to review your processes and ask whether everything has a place. Because when it does, your team spends less time searching and more time doing the work that matters. Principle 2. Use visual cues. A business is a complex organism with lots of processes and lots of different tasks. Often, the hardest part isn't doing the work, it's keeping track of the work and making sure each task gets completed. As the old adage goes, out of sight, out of mind. When tasks aren't visible, they slip through the cracks. The most effective way to ensure that a task gets done is to make it visible, so everyone can see what's been completed and what comes next. This is especially important when an order is changing hands or when a task gets set aside because a higher priority demands attention. At AES, one of our favorite ways to do this is with cones. Sometimes new associates will have trouble finding a part they haven't seen before, or the record of which bin it's stored in wasn't kept up to date. When that happens, we take a cone and write a message on it with a dry erase marker so that our veterans have a visual cue and everyone else knows not to wrap the order up before we've taken steps to find the missing part. Even our pick tickets use this principle. If a salesperson has special instructions on the order, that information is automatically highlighted on the paper to draw the attention of the warehouse staff and reduce the chances of missing it. Another way we use visual cues is for tracking equipment and building maintenance. Our machines are primarily powered by large batteries that need to be topped off with water each month. To track that and make it apparent to everyone who uses the machines, we have a dry erase magnet on each one. Then we write the date the maintenance was done and when the next maintenance cycle is due. These same strategies can be applied to any area of your business that requires real-time feedback or regular action. If you run a retail shop with a small warehouse, for example, consider using tags to flag a fireplace and vent kit that's almost ready for installation but is still waiting on a part. A whiteboard near the loading area can also show which jobs are in progress, which are waiting, and which are ready to go. And for routine maintenance, you might post a checklist on each service truck showing when inventory was last restocked, or hang a schedule in the shop tracking when vehicles are due for service. If you try these types of strategies, you'll find the benefits go both ways. Your team executes better because installers don't show up to jobs missing parts, and owners and managers can walk through and see the status of various projects at a glance without having to ask a bunch of questions. More often than not, success comes down to having the right information at the right time. When everyone can see what's done and what's next, your team spends less time chasing information and more time getting the actual work done. Principle 3. Be nice to the people helping you. When I was younger, I spent a few years working in one of the big box hardware stores. There's one customer interaction from that time in my life that stuck with me ever since. We had an associate who worked in the appliance section and had been there for a number of years. She was relatively young, very knowledgeable, well-spoken, and good at working with customers. An A-plus customer service associate. One day, an older gentleman visited the store because he had a problem with the refrigerator he'd bought from us. Even before he interacted with our young appliance associate, he was visibly upset, ready to blow his top, and had no patience for dealing with anyone, which was somewhat understandable. After all, he just made a big purchase, and now he was having problems with his brand new appliance. This gentleman decided that the best way to handle his particular problem was to make underhanded comments to our associate. She diligently helped him until it was clear that nothing she did would make him happy. At that point, she decided to bring in a Vietnam veteran who also worked in the store. The customer had a different attitude toward him, perhaps because it was someone he felt more akin to, but he was still behaving in an unbecoming way. After a minute or two more of this treatment, our veteran looked straight at the irate customer and said, in a very calm and pleasant voice, "It's always smart to be nice to the people who are helping you." From that moment on, the customer was silent. He worked easily with us, and we took great care of him. I was fortunate to have this attitude towards service people modeled for me as I grew up, and it's always been part of AES culture that we talk to and about each other in a respectful way. As I've grown older, that lesson has taken on an even deeper meaning. I've attempted to learn everything I possibly can about how our business works, and the more I learn, the more I find that there's still more to learn. I've come to the realization that I'm always going to need help from other people. Either the job is too big and complex for one person to handle, or I lack the knowledge to handle the entire situation. No amount of knowledge or proficiency will overcome this simple truth. Therefore, one of the most important things you can do when interacting with people, whether they have seniority over you or report to you, is to be kind and respectful. It sounds obvious when you put this principle into words, but at all stages of business, you need the help of others. You need your customers' help because they keep you in business. You need your sales team's help to gather more customers. You need installers and technicians' help to service those customers. And you need accountants, data processors, truck drivers, and warehouse associates to help you build a functioning business. I found that people are always more likely to help me when they feel respected and enjoy talking to me. Because of that, I think it's important to always try to speak positively when interacting with people. That can be hard when you're trying to correct people on your team, but you'll always be starting ahead when they can tell that you care about how your words come across and they hear a positive tone in your voice. So the next time you feel frustrated, have a high-pressure situation to deal with, or need to correct someone on your staff, take a second to center yourself on the goal you want to accomplish. Remember that people are more likely to adopt your way of doing things or help you reach your goal if they feel like you respect them. And always keep the veteran's advice in mind. It's smart to be nice to the people helping you. The warehouse that works for people. In the end, I owe a lot of who I am today to the people at AES who came before me. I wish I could take credit for the ideas I've shared here, but I'm the product of many people, and these thoughts are not original. Instead, they come from bits of old wisdom that I've picked up over my many years in the industry. In all that time, the most important lesson I've learned is that the warehouse is all about people. After all, every system, every process, and every interaction is ultimately about ensuring that your team can do their best work and your customers get what they need. That's why all three principles above point in the same direction. You organize your space so the work can flow. You use visual cues so nothing falls through the cracks. And you treat people the way you'd want to be treated because none of it works without them. Simply put, your warehouse should serve your people, the ones doing the work and the ones counting on the results, not the other way around.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that audio article by Allen Newby. Man, it had been a while since I'd listened to it, like I said up front, and it's really, really good. I mean, there is some awesome stuff here that applies not only to the warehouse, but to our businesses in general. So, okay, what's going through my head as I listen to this? I mean, first off, like we've talked about this before, but the warehouse is truly like the heart of your organization. Everything comes into it, everything goes out of it. If the warehouse goes down, you've got nothing. And so it is really important that we take it seriously. I think so often we hire someone at minimum wage or close to it, or in a part-time capacity to quote unquote, be the warehouse person, like the warehouse guy or the warehouse lady. But for a part of the business that is so critical to everything else working, it's kind of crazy when you think about that. And I think that Allen's principles are super, super good. First off, when it comes to the warehouse, I love the idea of organizing your space around the task. Is your warehouse set up like that? Okay, what's the task that needs to be done by the warehouse? Well, I mean, if your company offers installation, first and foremost, that warehouse needs to be able to load up installation trucks properly and get them sent out quickly. So is that how it's set up? Or are people having to go all over the place to figure out, what kind of vent pipe they need, or, where the decorative front is for that model as they're getting ready to load up? How could your warehouse be better organized around the task that your team has. And I mean, there's so many ways that you can apply this. I mean, some of the really effective things that I've seen in the past are like if you have enough space, to literally make like almost parking spaces where you line up your next day's jobs ahead of time from a staging perspective, right? So in bay 1, you've got all the jobs for Monday, and bay 2, you've got all the jobs for Tuesday, so that you can load things up and have it organized and ready, so that when the morning comes, the crew pulls up, you fork it onto their truck, and then they're off and going. And you're not, rooting around looking for vent pipe and things like that. So there's a lot of wisdom in there about just simply organizing your space for the task at hand. And this, you could talk about the showroom with this. You could talk about a lot of different things. But it really rolls right into the second point that Allen mentioned, which was the idea of like using visual cues to keep things organized and to keep people informed. I love the simplicity that he talked about with AES of like, if there's something that's missing, if there's a pallet that's, getting ready to go out, they put a cone on top of it with a note if something is missing. Man, that is so huge. I found this just for myself, and it's true for many areas of our business. Like, if we're not looking at it, it's gonna fall behind. It's just the way it works, because we can only keep track of so many things. And if we're not reminded visually of a problem, it is really hard to remember to get back to it. And so, like, when Allen said, like, when tasks aren't visible, they slip through the cracks. I resonate with that so much. And at least, within, my companies and businesses that I run, a huge part of what we do is trying to make things visible. Like, if it needs to get done, if there's a problem that we have to fix, we got to make it visible, because if we don't have our eyes on it, there's no way we're going to remember to do it. And in the warehouse, there's so many ways to do this. I mean, again, use visual cues to keep everybody informed. Having bin locations, having some kind of a master plan of how the warehouse is set up and organized, so that anybody in the organization could go to the warehouse and find what they need. For me, I can remember as a salesperson, like, many times going through the warehouse, trying to find, a random part that somebody in the showroom needed, grabbing it and selling it to them, just to find out later on that it was needed for an install and it wasn't labeled. Well, situations like that can all be avoided if we have the warehouse organized visually, to where people know why stuff is here and why it's there. So if we have a section of the warehouse that is dedicated to staging, right? This is reserved for upcoming jobs. Well, salespeople know that they can't take from it. But if it's just a free-for-all where stuff is just loose in the warehouse, I mean, first of all, no one is going to find things quickly. But second of all, stuff is going to get misplaced all the time and sold to the wrong person, and given to people and trucks and service technicians that shouldn't have it because it was meant for somebody else. The way that we get around this is by using visual cues. And I love that. I mean, I find that so often in my life, that if there's a problem I need to solve, step one, got to make it visible. If it's not visible, I'm probably going to ignore it. And, this is really true in our warehouses. Finally, I really like how he closed the article talking about people, because, like, people make everything. I mean, in our businesses, very few things are truly automatic. I mean, yeah, some things like with like maybe emails or an automated confirmation call, like maybe that's truly automatic. But most of the things in our businesses hinge on people to some degree. And when things rest on people, we need to make sure that people are engaged and that people are happy to do the work that they need to do. Otherwise, the work's not going to get done. And the way that we do that is by treating people with kindness and respect. I mean, that whole story of, like, it's always smart to be nice to the people who are helping you is so, so good. I love that he was able to witness that. But I mean, how often is it that we see an installer coming back from a job and just like ripping apart a salesperson, or ripping apart the warehouse manager, whoever it was that loaded their truck up that day? And just remembering that we are in this together, and it's not that frustrations don't happen and we don't get mad at things or even each other, but leading with kindness and respect will always get us further than leading with anger and disdain. And with that, I think about something that Allen's uncle Craig told me one time. So I was a customer of AES's for years when I was a retailer. And Allen's uncle Craig one time was talking to me, and we're saying that, like, hey, there's kind of two ways to get things done. Like, you can yell and scream at people and try to, win through fear and sheer power, but that will only get you so far. And so Craig Newby, he said, hey, Tim, we always got to remember, you get a lot more with honey than with bees. And it's such a simple phrase, but it's really true. Like, in situations where we're dealing with people, if we remember to treat them with kindness and respect first, chances are the outcome will be significantly better than if we just, stay angry and try to vent and blow our top so that they really know how we feel about it. Kindness and respect goes a long ways. Doesn't mean there's not a place for correction. It doesn't mean there's not a place to be angry, but we can channel all of that through still treating people with dignity. And sometimes treating people with dignity does mean that you rebuke them because you care about them enough to do that. And you think that they have enough dignity as a human being to actually understand what has been going on. So, top to bottom, I thought this was an amazing article. Like I said, it came out in the February issue of the Fire Time magazine. It's also available in the 2026 Fire Time Journal that recently came out. And, if you enjoyed this article and you want to listen or read more from the Fire Time magazine, you can just go to itsfiretime.com/subscribe and just throw your email address in. You can sign your whole team up, and every month for free, you'll get articles from the newest issue of the Fire Time magazine. And those come in audio format as well as a text format for most of the articles. So super, super excited to go through this article of Allen's. I think it was really awesome. And that's all that we have for today's episode. We're going to continue these rapid reaction episodes throughout the rest of the summer. My hope is that this has been a blessing for you and you are able to take it and start applying it today. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week. We'll talk again very soon. Thank you for listening to the Fire Time Podcast. To learn more, visit the website itsfiretime.com. Music from this episode was written and recorded by In Bloom out of Portland, Oregon. We thank you for listening to the Fire Time Podcast, where it's never hot enough, slow is fast, and the way to win is to make it so stupidly easy to buy from you that there's no excuse not to. We'll see you next time.